Oregon, they're making a run at a top 3 class. And look, it could happen. The Ducks are currently sitting at number 6 overall in the team rankings, but there is a path for the Ducks to get this done. And in this video, we're talking about the top targets on Oregon's recruiting board. I got Justin Hopkins from Scoop Duck here to break it all down. But first, are you guys subscribed to the best recruiting channel on YouTube? If not, hit subscribe for me, please. All right, let's bring on Justin Hopkins from Scoop Duck. And Justin, the path to that top 3 class, it's paved with 5 stars. Let's take a look at some of Oregon's top targets here. Of course, we're going to start with Dorian Moore, the 5-star wide receiver, the number 1 wide receiver in America, just opened up his recruitment less than a week ago. He decommitted from LSU. Now, the teams involved are Oregon, Ohio State, and Texas, depending on who you talk to. Everybody's got a new flavor of the week, but the thing is, Moore is not ready to decide it. It'll probably come sometime in July or August. How do you feel about the Ducks and where they sit for Dorian Moore?
Yeah, I mean, what's better than 1 5-star commitment would be 2, right? So Ducks have Dallas Wilson committed right now, pushing hard for Dorian Moore. And, I know a lot of Duck fans were excited to see him decommit from LSU. I think that was something that a lot of people expected to happen at some point or any point, and it eventually did. Really didn't change much for me in the way I viewed Oregon with Moore. They've been a school that's been able to get him on campus several times this year. Of course, then they hire Rashad Samples to come over on the offensive side of the ball, further strengthening their chances with Moore. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said. I think this is Oregon, Ohio State, and Texas in the main battle here. But ultimately, I really feel like Oregon's one of those top 2 teams, and I've always been curious who the other team is. And I think it might be Texas, but I know Ohio State's making a push too. But I do feel like the one constant in the top 2 has been Oregon for quite some time, and it will be interesting to see how June plays out for him.
Yeah, and the other interesting part is Dorian Moore decommits on Thursday and essentially says his recruitment's closed. And, of course, it's not closed off to the 3 teams that he's considering, but I found it kind of interesting that Dorian Moore isn't willing to entertain any other teams outside of Oregon, Ohio State, and Texas. Justin, real quick, what has Oregon done to position themselves so well with Dorian Moore already?
Yeah, I think, they've started recruiting him early on prior to his LSU commitment. And I think, when you talk about, there's a lot of really good recruiters out there, but there might not be very many better than Junior Adams. The guy just flat out gets it done on the recruiting trail, does a tremendous job building relationships, does a tremendous job recruiting everybody really hard, even the guys that are committed to him. So it's just kind of that calm demeanor. And he's got some development pedigree to him, so he leans on that as well. So as far as that goes, I think it's really been that. But then it's been further strengthened because you bring in Will Stein out of Texas as your OC last year. You bring in Rashad Samples this year, obviously with ties to Duncanville there. So Oregon's in a really good spot because they've got a lot of aces in the hole there, if you will.
Yeah. Comes down to relationships, and Oregon checks a couple of those boxes. Let's move on to Jonah Williams. Now, the number 1 safety in America. He was trending early to Oklahoma, actually still trending to Oklahoma right now in the recruiting prediction machine, but there's been some Texas A&M picks. There's Ohio State's involved, Oregon's involved, and he was just out in Eugene over the weekend. How are you feeling about his recruitment to Oregon after this visit?
Yeah, so this is one to me that I feel like if we're talking about a top 5, I would say Oregon's probably was 4 or 5 heading into this visit. They weren't in that top 3, I don't believe. And now I've changed my position. I think they're firmly inside that top 3 with this visit. Williams was glowing about his visit. We've got some quotes from him on Scoop Duck. I know others have talked to him as well in our network. And it just feels like Oregon made an absolute move here. I checked with sources there, and they felt like the visit couldn't have gone any better. Keys being the development that they have on the defensive side of the ball, the defense that they run and how he'd fit in. And I know that this was just a big weekend for them. Obviously, having several guys from the state of Texas on campus at the same time, we might get to more of them. But I just think that Oregon really put themselves now in a spot to challenge for Williams, where I think they were maybe on the outside looking in prior to that visit.
Yeah, let's stay with that Texas to Oregon pipeline. Now, 5-star athlete Michael Terry, another number 1 player at his position. He's the number 1 athlete in America. He was in Eugene over the weekend. Now, he's been to Nebraska. He's been to Texas. He's been to A&M. He's kind of open. What did you learn about his recruitment coming out of this trip?
Yeah, tons of great things to say about Oregon coming out of this trip and the visit and the offense, the way he'd be used in the offense. Of course, Will Stein, Rashad Samples once again, Antonio Parks, all these coaches on staff with ties to the Texas area, the San Antonio area, even specifically there. So very much like Williams, where I felt, I do feel he's pretty open, but I think Oregon was probably not really anywhere close to the top three. And I think they're firmly in the top three and might even be in the top two right now because of this visit and how it went and just the way it was eye-opening. Of course, at the end of the day, we both know that getting these guys to actually sign and decide to leave Texas to go all the way to Oregon is another hurdle. But I think Oregon's at least put themselves in position with Williams and Terry to be at least in that top two or top three, when that important decision timeline comes for both, which could be late June or July or, whenever they do make their decisions.
All right, let's get back to that path to a top three class. Now, Jonah Williams and Michael Terry, they were on campus over the weekend. The next two prospects we're going to talk about were not, but they are regulars on Scoop Duck, and the fans love them. We talk about them all the time here on the Inside Scoop as well. Five-star safety Trey McNutt. Early in this recruitment, it seemed like he was all in favor of Ohio State. It was just a matter of time until he pledged his commitment to the Buckeyes. But other teams have been getting involved. Most recently, he was in Athens over the weekend at Georgia. The Bulldogs were probably on the outside looking in of that top three, top four. But now, talking to the guys over at Dogs HQ, it sounds like the Dogs are a serious contender for McNutt. Where do you see Oregon sitting right now? And then when is the next time he'll be on campus?
Yeah, looking like top three for Oregon range right now. This is a guy that they've just kind of been laying in the weeds on. Coach Hampton's built a really strong relationship with him. And like you said, even when it was really trending heavily towards Ohio State, and it still might be, Oregon was not ready to give up with McNutt. They know that this is a guy that can make a difference in their defense. And like you said, they're really pushing for a top three, maybe top two class. They want to have an elite class this year to stack with the last two top 10 classes they put together. And you and I both know McNutt's a key piece to that. He's expected to be on campus in June for an official visit. I don't recall the specific weekend he's coming, but it feels like, as we both know and recruiting fans know, June's shaping up to be one of the most pivotal months of the year in recruiting for a lot of these big-time programs, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with McNutt down the finish line there.
All right, let's talk about five-star DJ Picket. Now, DJ Picket might be the most important piece of uncommitted prospects still on Oregon's board, so why not save the best for last? DJ Picket, he lives about an hour north of Dallas Wilson, so Oregon's already proved that they can go into the state of Florida and pull some of the best talent out. Now, DJ Picket, though, there is some tough competition. Georgia's in the picture, Miami, LSU, of course, Oregon. Where do you feel heading into the summer? Because we know this recruitment isn't going to end anytime soon. But just as it stands now, how do you feel about the Ducks' placement in his recruitment?
I feel like Oregon's been a steady top three here. I don't know that I ever feel like Oregon's at any point, but I wouldn't say they're far behind whoever we think is led. And again, I think LSU and Florida have been two of the main ones we've heard a lot about the longest. I know Miami's probably right there in it. Georgia's kind of coming into the mix, and we know Georgia can strike at any moment. Kirby Smart's got a well-oiled machine down there, but I feel like Oregon's been a constant top three, possibly top two for Pickett. They've prioritized him. They haven't backed off one bit. They view him as a cornerback. They have poured every resource into Pickett, and he's been one of the most frequent visitors I can recall for the past 6 months to Oregon, in the five-star caliber, that is. So I think that the Ducks are in a great spot here. You want to stay in that spot, and like you said, it's more, the phrase I like to use here is you want to keep chopping wood, right? You don't need his commitment tomorrow. You don't need his commitment in June because it's not going to happen. You just want to keep chopping wood, get him on campus, recruiting him. And I think Oregon's showing no signs of backing off at all. And they do feel confident that they can remain in this one at least until, we get to closer to a commitment for Pickett.
All right, Oregon fans, tap in with us. Let me know, comment section below, which of these five stars do you feel best about heading into the summer? It's going to be a busy one. Let me know, comment section below. Well, you've made it to the end of today's video, but there's hundreds more videos on the On3 Recruits channel for you to check out. And also, while you're here, hit subscribe.